I'm Reva Upadhyaya, a 12-year-old Bokosnian from Delhi, and today, I and Ditya, my friend, and Bokosnian from Bengaluru, will conduct this podcast on bullying, a big problem faced by children and adolescents. We have today a mental health expert with us who will answer all our queries and give valuable inputs tackling this issue.
Before we start, I want to emphasize that this is a chat where we look forward to our questions being answered and learning new perspectives. However, the opinions of each person on this podcast is personal and should not be taken as advice. If you are going through emotions that overwhelm you, we urge you to speak to a professional, the number for whom you will find on the chat. When in doubt, seeking professional help is the best thing to do. So Reva, did you ever experience bullying?
I haven't actually experienced bullying. I've never been bullied. But I have seen one of my friends from my class being bullied, and it really broke my heart. Because when someone is bullied, it really reduces their self-esteem and their confidence about themselves and makes them feel ashamed of themselves, even though they have nothing to be ashamed of. And my friend really had trouble reaching out for help, and he couldn't stand up to the bully. But in the end, my friends and I, we all managed to help him stand up to the bully.
That's really nice to know. My experience is from a different view as I was the person being bullied. And let me just say it wasn't at all a really nice one. But I managed to get my parents into it and we sort of had the situation under control.
That's great to know, Ditya. We children may not know how to handle this big problem of bullying well. So it would be best to learn from someone who knows best. Today we have with us Ms. Karishma, a counseling psychologist, family therapist and a parenting coach. Ms. Karishma is a mentor to the young and a life coach for women and children. Through her center, Happiness Quotient in New Delhi, she helps people to explore and enhance their inner potential. She is also associated with Max Hospital, Delhi, and schools such as Sardar Patel Vidyalaya. We welcome you, ma'am.
Ma'am, before we bombard you with our questions, I would quickly brief you about the format of the show. Reva and I will read write-ups by youngsters on bullying and ask questions which have been sent to you by youngsters. So let's begin.
So our fellow Bokosnian, Nishani Kar from Kolkata, has penned down her deep thoughts on bullying. She has written a poem, "Bullying is not cool. Stop it. You may think you're cool by calling me names, and you may think that I'm hurting inside. You may even choose to get nasty. But do you really think I'm going to hide? Lots of people look up to you. They're scared if they don't, you'll turn sour. I bet half of them think you're a bully. But when you speak, they just scar. My only question is, only why? Just why? Why do you make innocent little kids sad? There's no reason to hurt, not even a tad. Then why do you tease those who are shy? You're not a bully, but a coward who is jealous of people around you. Am I really as bad as you make me feel, or someone you want to be?" So, Ms. Karishma, what should we do if we feel like we are being bullied?
So, there are a lot of times that your brain is already racing. So, we already have something called the coping mechanism in our brain fitted. It's not something that we need to do. We already have all the resources and our brain already knows and is tuned into technically working on ourselves in terms of saving us. But at that point, sometimes we freeze to not realize what exactly am I supposed to do in this particular situation. There are a couple of ways you look at it, but the most important being having that presence of mind and that awareness. If something is not okay with you, immediately having that sensor telling you that you're not fine with it. It's not acceptable. Often, a lot of us have completed the process of bullying only to realize later that we were bullied. That, oh my God, this was actually happening to me. In spite of all this, we want to create more awareness of when it's happening to be able to stop it there and then. Then comes the next question, how to do that. So in that case, the first part of the how, however difficult or easy it may seem for a lot of us, is to reaching out to people, having your back support. For example, having 3 people around you. It's not necessary you have those 3 people in the same class, or you have those 3 people on the same bench or right next to you, but having 3 people around you in that particular institute, school, or class, wherever you are, whom you can reach out to. One of them, of course, could be your professors or teachers, one could be your parent, and one could be your peer. Knowing exactly where to go if you need support with a particular type of person. For example, if you're being troubled by a peer, by somebody in your class, like I think Ditya was saying about some names that they have for typical type of people, according to them. So knowing exactly how to stop this menace. The first thing could be, and you also fear for your own self-image because you don't want to be the one to be blamed that she goes and complains, she's a complaint box. But at the same time, there is a fine line in understanding what is acceptable to me as a person and what is not. And the most important thing over here is your confidence in yourself. So, making it a little more clear for all of you, when you feel or you are experiencing bullying firsthand, the most important thing is reaching out. It may not always be wise to go up and fight there and then, but maybe an appropriate plan for the next day would be more advisable at first. And, understanding who are the people you can take support from in actually reaching out to these bullies. Because maybe it's not those bullies who are the problem. Maybe there is another problem which needs to be dealt with and not those people. So yes, maybe fighting there and then is not the wisest thing, but taking some time away to mechanizing and understanding how you can cope with it further is an immediate way to start.
Okay, thanks for that, ma'am. Has bullying always been around? And why does it seem like it's a bigger issue these days?
So bullying has been around all the time. It's just changed forms. Earlier, it was simple teasing. It started with Eve teasing. It reached out to boys and girls both. Eventually, this teasing became bigger and uglier and started taking different forms of harassment. Further, it kept transitioning into different ways with different times and decades. Today, we talk about cyberbullying, which is the most prevalent, where because of the online issues and the pandemic, everything is online. And it's easier to make memes, to bully people, to harass people in different ways and not being found out. It's easier to get back at people. So bullying has been around. It's just transitioned into different forms from time to time. And we need to also revise our ways of dealing with this kind of bullying from time to time. Because not every time can I go to my professors or teachers or the principal or my parents. Sometimes out of fear of being shameful or not being believed, we don't want to go to these adults and we don't reach out to people in time to save ourselves or our peers. So it's important to know what exactly can they do at those times. So bullying has been there. It's just taking different forms and it's only getting more difficult right now because we're in the pandemic time, we're just getting out of the pandemic. So the bullying has taken this coarse way of not having any names. You don't know who's doing it. And that's even more haunting. Because if I'm getting mails or if I'm getting memes or if I'm being mocked at in front of the whole class or school, it becomes the talk of town. But I don't know whom to pick back at that. I don't know who the person is. So it creates more issues in my self-esteem than I'd like to believe. So definitely bullying is creating more problems today, and it's creating more because now we have easier ways that bullies can reach us and bully us. But with changing times, we as society, members of this society, I think if we could actually revise ourselves and say that, I stand up to motivate someone and stop this nonsense towards someone. Maybe I'm not at the butt of the joke. But if I see that somebody else is going through harassment, and if I stand up with my set of people, it's only going to weaken these bullies, because bullies only they derive pleasure out of the fear they see that you are experiencing. And that fear for them is pleasure, not realizing that what they are doing is going to cost somebody their self-esteem, their confidence, and maybe the rest of their life. So we need to stand up to this fear and actually change it to motivating our peers to come together and team up and say no collectively. Not just stand and be the fawns in the groups and just be the yes boys and yes girls. So, yeah.
Thank you, ma'am, for those very interesting points. Now I'd like to read out a piece from an essay by Aishwarya Gupta from Rudrapur, Uttarakhand. Blowing out someone's candle does not make yours shine brighter. Nowadays we enjoy teasing people, laughing at them for their mistakes, making fun of them instead of helping and abusing them. Abuses have now become a part of our conversation. Without that, we feel somewhat incomplete. We like roasting people without any reason, and this has become the most important means of entertainment. We don't think about their feelings. We forget that they are also humans and we treat them worse than animals.
Yeah, definitely. It's sad that roasting is a means of entertainment now. Roasting is not really new. The White House correspondent dinner is a tradition where the media roasts the President of the United States. This culture is very new to India. Do you think our kids are picking up cues from our celebrities as roasting shows become more common and a part of pop culture here?
Yes, I think roasting and like Reva read the article about the whole idea of deriving pleasure out of roasting people or doing this. I think the pop culture and all these things just add. I wouldn't say they are to blame, but definitely the fact that they add weightage to what's happening, and we feel going for these shows which are really funny and comic have roasters who do all these things for people. I don't think it's fair, but it's very subjective to people, and the person who's at the receiving end is going through a lot which we don't understand. And the biggest repercussion of bullying, roasting, and all other means of harassment, there is one question that each of us has faced in life, and that question is, why me? Why did I have to go through this? And I think that makes each child special and unique. But the problem is, when the why me comes, this unique and special becomes a problem for them. And this problem prevails for the rest of our lives, going into bigger fears of I am not good enough. So hence, I think the fact that roasting or bullying is something that we have taken up as a topic with you young adults is amazing, because we need to know and we need to be able to draw a fine line between what is acceptable and what is not.
Thank you so much, ma'am. My school also has an anti-bullying policy that every parent signs at the beginning of the year. Now I'd like to read out a summary of the story that I wrote on Bukosmia, which was related to bullying. She never got a chance to tell them about this. Zara is our normal teenager. But when there is a band of bullies out to make her life miserable, can her best friend help her face the bully of Lakeshore Academy? It's a story about a girl who goes through a lot of bullying, and her parents do a lot of work. They can't really be there for her and they don't know about this.
Thanks a lot, Ditya. We'll be sure to check out this amazing story. Okay, so now I would like to read out a piece which is written by my Bukosmian friend Tanvi Nagar from Gurgaon. She writes, "Dear bully, your words don't define me. Get out of our way, weirdo," they shouted. I felt like I was being crushed under a mountain. My heart pounded in my chest. Tears came next. I felt lonely, fallen, and devastated. Miss Karishma, can you tell us the consequences of bullying on children's emotional well-being?
Yes, Reva. So, bullying has long lasting effects which we may not realize. What happens is when we're harassed or when we are victims of bullying and we're on the receiving end, sometimes emotionally we are so distorted that it actually plays on our mind for the longest time. It definitely breaks down, like I said, our self-esteem, our beliefs in ourselves, and it lays down foundation for some really strong beliefs. The first one being, I am not good enough. This fear or this feeling, which trickles or starts with a simple, funny joke that somebody cracked on me and repeatedly kept cracking with everybody, it actually becomes a big issue in my growth. Mentally and emotionally, I feel unable to connect with peers, with people, because it's always haunting me. Maybe I'm still not good enough. And it also trickles to various parts of your life. Maybe it's about going to school, it's about making friends, it's about being social, or, it's more convenient to just cope by saying, stop, I'm an introvert. I don't want to talk to people. And when our parents actually force us to go back to the same scenario where we know those bullies are going to be haunting us, you need to understand that as a person, emotionally, it's even more damaging to go back to those scenarios again and again without having a proper technique to cope with it. So emotionally, for the rest of their life, it takes a very long time for children to get above this bullying. On a personal note, I'd like to share that I, as a child, was bullied and tormented for a lot of physical issues that I had. Where, giving you a very open example, my hair, it was very curly, and everyone made joke of it. And I was told that I am the ghosla of the school, and that ghosla word stayed with me for the longest period. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to go to college. I didn't want to get married. I didn't want to do anything. Only when I actually went back to studying was I able to relieve myself of those beliefs that sat on my brain for the rest of my life saying, I am not good enough for people because I am just a ghostler. So similarly, all of us have long-lasting effects which we do not realize these bullying issues can have. Sometimes we just feel we're having fun with our friends and we're just joking about them, but we don't know how the other person might be taking it. I'd like to add a little bit. Bullying has happened to all of us at some point, or we have been victims, or we have been observers of this bullying. It's important for us to know, as members of the society, the place where we belong, we need to stand up for ourselves and our peers in whichever way that's possible. If someone does not have the courage to actually report it, maybe I or you could report it to the authorities and get this streamlined for the person. Sometimes reaching out to them or letting them know how you saw them and you felt for them is only encouraging and boosting them to be able to take control and charge of their own lives. It's not easy to deal with these things, but definitely if we can be that 1% change in this society, we will be able to make a lot of difference to a lot of people around us.
Ma'am, I have a question. Many times, it's actually a very common statement that we hear that bullies are people who are insecure themselves, and that is exactly why they bully others to make themselves feel better or something makes them insecure. So, my question is, why would a person who is insecure want to, uh, bully another person What
Ditya, I get
advantage
what
are they
you're
getting
saying,
out
and
of it?
yes, whenever we are getting cases of bullying, we first check for the bully. We try to understand what made them do what they're doing, and yes, you're right that a lot of times these bullies have been victims of bullying themselves, and further they inflict it on people. So there is a very deep psyche behind it. But to simplify it for all of you young people, I'd like to add that sometimes when I don't get what I want, or I didn't get, or I was victimized for something which was not my fault, I go into a frenzy where I want to fight and defy everybody around me. And the notion over here is that I want to inflict pain on others so that I can get over my own pain. But let me tell you and reassure you, they never get over their own pain. They rid and they feel that pain all along while they are victimizing other people. So, inflicting pain or further bullying people after being victims of bullying has happened naturally. It's a natural transition because once, twice, three times, when I'm at the receiving end, sometimes I turn around and I want to bark back, not realizing that I might be scaring some others too. So inflicting pain definitely, and the insecurity. Yes, bullies are very insecure. The reason why they are insecure is because some part of their system is not okay about things happening. It could be out of jealousy, it could be out of not feeling good enough, it could be out of fear of being left out. A very big fear is I will lose out. So what happens is you want to team up and you want to group people around you. You want to surround yourself with people. You want to feel strong, and hence you reach out to people you feel that you can victimize, and at their cost you want to feel stronger. But trust me, it's only temporary. It cannot be permanent for them to feel strong because you can't make your garden on somebody else's house. Same way, you can't feel secure by troubling or tormenting others around you. Yes, for a little bit, you might feel the cheap thrills of, oh my god, how good I am. But eventually, it has to die its own death. The fact that the insecurity makes them do this is itself very, very obvious that, you know, these children or these bullies are actually victims themselves of their own bullying. It's just that they are out of control for themselves. But I'm not saying that we can't deal with them. We very well can deal with them, and all we need to do is muster courage for ourselves and people around us. So it's extremely important to be vigilant in your surroundings, to notice and notify people if you feel something's inappropriate or something that's not right with your value system. Sometimes we all end up being bullies. Sometimes as parents also, if you realize, I'm sure most of you are going to agree that parents also sometimes look like bullies because they do want to reach out and make sure that you do listen to them and not talk to them but listen to them. So yes, we all become bullies in a lot of ways without realizing it. It's extremely important to be mindful. So it's important to have these campaigns of anti-bullying and these conversations about bullying and how bullying can be prevented from time to time to make sure that I don't fall into that border. It's a very thin line between having fun and having fun at someone's cost. Even that is bullying in a lot of terminologies. So it's important to be mindful, and to be mindful simply it's about adhering to how you feel. Would you like it if that happened to you? And that's the question each of us needs to ask ourselves. That do we really, really like what's happening to X, Y, or Z? If not, what can I do right now in my capacity to deal or help the person? That's how we are mindful.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for answering our questions. And I think it's time to wrap up the session. Some feel that bullying is a normal rite of passage in growing up. It isn't. There will always be conflicts between kids, but bullying is intentional cruelty, harassment, and emotional, physical, and sometimes sexual abuse. This behavior can set the tone for a lifetime of intentional cruelty or worse. And the consequences to the victim can seriously affect them for the rest of their lives. So, whenever we are being bullied or witness bullying, we must stand up for ourselves
Thank you,
and for those
Ditya.
being bullied. Together, we can stomp out bullying. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being here on our podcast today and for also answering all our queries.
Thanks a lot, everyone, and thank you, ma'am, for being here.